here with Leonie Campbell today, who happens to be the president at Cairn Leadership Strategies. Is also a Marine, led Marines in Iraq and Afghanistan, and orthopedic surgeon resident. So excited to be on top of a mountain. We have Lake Tahoe behind us. We have an amazing leader to talk to and hear from, and excited to share the summit with you. Leonie, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, it's a great day. It's absolutely gorgeous up here.
How was that hike?
It was twisty, windy, and exciting.
It was exciting. Well, Leonie, we're going to jump right in and ask our first question. What are your core values?
So I think core values are an interesting thing that I used to say that like once you had a set, they didn't really change. And I think that as I get older, I would say that they don't really change in their general gist, but they definitely get refined. And since it's something we talk about a lot at Cairn Leadership, it's certainly something that I get to think about a lot at Cairn Leadership. But one of mine, I think one that has absolutely never changed for me has been integrity. And for me, integrity is really important because not only is it the integrity of everything that I do, but it's also the integrity that I expect of everyone else and everything else. So for me, that kind of is just a underlying base for all of my values. My second really big one is faith. And again, it kind of comes down to what are our like fundamental underlying underpinnings. And for me, faith is not just in a higher being. For me, that would be God and Jesus, but also for faith in other people, faith in myself. And that faith is often necessary to kind of push through a lot of difficulties in life. Yeah. Be it, just something at work, something in your everyday, a challenge that you're facing, trying to figure our way up this route today. We were going to make it up here. So I think that's the importance of faith. And the last one is perseverance. And again, these kind of all have a theme and they build upon each other. So perseverance is, we come across tough things in life, and sometimes it's an easy day. You're really just jiving, you're flowing through whatever it is, be it some awesome ski lines or a project you have at work, or sometimes it's a little bumpy, but that perseverance is what kind of pushes you through those rough spots, and you can pick up your flow again on the far side.
Yeah, that sounds, just to be clear, there was no trail today. We just kind of looked at a mountain and came up it. So for better or worse, faith, you got to have faith that the trail's going to make it to the top, or that you'll deal with it if it doesn't. So you've led Marines years and years ago, and they still reach out to you for help, which I think is a testament to good leadership. What's your philosophy? How do you approach leading?
So leadership philosophies, for me, again, they're built upon your values. So having my core values of integrity, faith, and perseverance allows me to set forth kind of expectations for, be it my Marines when I was leading Marines, or now going forward as I go through orthopedic surgery residency. But for me, it was I always treated my Marines like family. And I always told them that we're a big, happy, dysfunctional family because we have hiccups and things happen and we all grow and share, and sometimes there's squabbles, but at the end of the day, we're still family and we're still gonna look out for each other, and we always know we have each other's back. And so I think one of the most awesome things I have from one of my units is we have a core group of Marines, and every couple times a year they reach out and check on each other, and somebody's having a rough day, like we always know that somebody's gonna have somebody's back. And I think it's a really, really unique component to the Marine Corps, but I think that any really high functioning group, like you hear about with SEALs, you hear about with recon guys, like any tight-knit group that's worked in a austere, difficult environment together and really face severe consequences can develop some pretty neat bonds that just time and distance don't matter. Yeah. But again, that kind of all goes back to treating them like family. So
treat your people like family. Love it. Great philosophy. And it sounds like climbing a mountain, working together in austere. Yeah. Turns out we're family too. That's great. So jumping right into that, why climb mountains? What do you learn from that?
It's something we talk about a lot, especially in medicine and the Marine Corps, and I think within leadership, we talk a lot about grit and we talk about mental toughness. And everyday life can be filled with opportunities to come across that, but in other ways, we often can shy away from it. And there's ways to get out of the tough spots. There's ways to get out of having to have grit. And there's always frequently there's someone else to catch you. But when you're on a mountain, it's just you and one other person, maybe a certain people. There's no immediate backdrop. Like you have to be able to self-rescue. You have to be able to push through bad weather. You have to push through. Sometimes you've made some really bad decisions and you're gonna have to figure your way out of it. Like we might have to figure our way out of a bad decision on our way back down. But at the same time, I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that because I know that I've met where I thought was an extreme before, and it was not my breaking point. My breaking point always seems to be further than I think it is, and I think it's amazing to keep thinking you've reached your breaking point in various avenues of life, and then getting to push past that over and over and over again. And that's where mental toughness gets built. That's where grit gets just accumulated.
So if you lead your people like family, but you need to be mentally tough, I'm just curious, how do you know, when someone messes up, how do you balance that family and loving and supporting each other, but also being tough and getting to the top of the mountain?
So I think early on in my Marine Corps career, I was taught that officers never yell. And there are other ways that you can teach people and lead people and develop people. And one of the really cool tools that I found was that I had a Marine that screwed up pretty good. And he came to me and he was extremely apologetic, but he just hadn't learned the lesson. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, what do you think is an appropriate corrective action to this? And he's just hemming and hawing, and I'm like, okay, I want you to write what you think would be the appropriate disciplinary action and the remediation for it. And that really kind of having him have to go back and sit and reflect on that activity was probably the most impactful thing for him, and long-term was productive in development. And I've used that tool numerous times, and I think that it's important to remember that every individual that you're leading is an individual. I've heard you're going to adapt your leadership style, blah, blah, blah. But you do have to be able to lead an individual and adapt to an individual and to the individual situations. And that comes with a lot of experience. And I've made plenty of mistakes. I have screwed up royally more times than I count. And having had some really good master gunnery sergeants and master guns and staff sergeants, lance corporals, PFCs that, there was a lesson to be learned and I was willing to learn it. So that was just an important component.
Yeah, the willingness to learn, critical to leading well, for sure.
Humility.
So you're a mom, you have an amazing, probably the most wonderful daughter in the world. Might be biased.
We might both be biased.
You work, 80-hour weeks as an orthopedic surgeon resident, and you've been a sponsored athlete. You still are sponsored to climb mountains and do cool stuff. Is it responsible? Is it irresponsible to be coming out here climbing all the time? How do you square that?
So I think it's absolutely responsible, but I think you have to know your own limits and your own risk acceptance. So what I'm willing to do with my daughter when she's with us is much, much less than I'm willing to do when it's us, and where my risk acceptance lies. But I also think that it's really important, in order to lead well, you need to take care of yourself first and foremost. And if you are not in a good headspace and a good physical and mental space, you're not going to be able to lead your people, because you can't set the example, you can't think clearly, you can't function, you're not firing on all cylinders. And for me, getting outside, and I think for the human race in general, getting outside in some capacity is essential for just mental health and for clarity of mind. And the amount of just looking out at the view and what's around us, it's immense. And keeping that in mind, that we're just such a finite little drop in that immensity, I think is grounding to who we are in this very finite life that we live.
We talk about flow a lot at Cairn Leadership, and Mihai, the guy who came up with flow, talks about rock climbing and surgeons a lot as he talks about professions and things that really trigger flow. Do the mountains bring out flow for you? Is it something you can practice? What's your relationship with flow?
I think skiing for me is the ultimate source of flow. One in particular, in terms of our some cool ski summits. So we were coming down Mount Baker, and I was just cruising, but I was just such perfect, just edge to edge, and it felt amazing. And it as I was going down that run, I was like, man, this is flow. This is awesome. Or sometimes when you're on your mountain bike and you're just hitting those perfect bank turns and you're just getting to glide up and it's effortless. And so I think having an ability to know what that feels like allows you to find it in other places in your life. And so for me, being able to find a sense of flow in the outdoors allows me to be able to seek and know what that feels like, and know when I'm starting to get onto flow and into flow in any other component, be it my daily life, trying to balance learning to be a surgeon and to be a mom and to be a wife at the same time. Sometimes I'm firing all cylinders, and sometimes it is a rough and bumpy ride, and I need to take a step and look at where have I gotten off track.
Yeah. Last question for anyone trying to lead better, trying to become more excellent as a leader. What's a piece of advice you would give them?
I think I said it earlier, but I think being humble and being willing to learn from anyone around you is probably the most important piece of advice that can be for anyone that's trying to be a leader. When I first got to my first unit in the Marine Corps, the captain I was working for, he's like, be humble. He's like, there is so much you can learn from everyone around you. And that has stuck with me immensely ever since then. And I've used that same little piece of wisdom to every single one of my Marines that ever worked for me when they were junior officers. And it still continues to be a piece of advice that I give to others, is be willing to be humble and be humbled by everything around you.
I'm often humbled by the mountains, and I'm excited for going down. Hopefully the Glissade works.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be a long hike.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for your wisdom, for sharing, and for sharing this awesome summit.